Okay, here we go. All right, so we finished up last week talking about the two witnesses in chapter 11. And we determined that they were most likely, or most people believe that they're Elijah and Moses that will come and will proclaim the gospel during the end times. And that they'll have protection from God, that they won't be able to be harmed. And then when 3.5 years is up, the protection will go away from God. They will be killed by the leader of the world, which will eventually be the Antichrist. And they will lie dead in the street. The whole world will celebrate. They'll be dead in the street for 3.5 days, and then they will be raised up and taken to heaven. And that was kind of how we finished up last week, was them. And then we got verses 15 through 19 left for this chapter. And this will be right. The seventh trumpet will sound, and it'll bring the third woe. Remember, we were talking about the woes? That we said there was going to be 3 woes. We've already talked about 2 of them. Now we're going to have the third one. And the seventh trumpet will unleash what they call bowls of wrath. More judgments that will come upon the earth. And this will be the actual ultimate wrath of God on the unrepentant world. And we're going to see here some events that will take place in the meantime. Okay. So the trumpet's getting ready to blow, and we're going to see here, and already jumping right into where it's kind of, there's already disagreements, differences, or whatever. Some people believe that this event is right chronologically in this timeline. Others believe that this event is what's getting ready to be talked about here is going to be in the future, and more towards when some of the bowls of wrath have happened. Okay. All right. So let's just go ahead and read 15 through 19. Then the seventh angel blew his trumpet, and there were loud voices shouting in heaven, "The world has now become the kingdom of our Lord and his Christ, and he will reign forever and ever." The 24 elders sitting on their thrones before God fell on their faces to the ground and worshipped him. And they said, "We give thanks to you, Lord God, the Almighty, the one who is, who always was, for now you have assumed your great power and have begun to reign. The nations were filled with wrath, but now the time of your wrath has come. It is time to judge the dead and reward your servants, the prophets, as well as your holy people and all who fear your name, from the least to the greatest. It's time to destroy all who have caused destruction on the earth." Then in heaven, the temple of God was opened, and the Ark of the Covenant could be seen inside the temple. Lightning flashed, thunder crashed and roared, and there was an earthquake and a terrible hailstorm. All right? So, all right. Like I said, I've learned tricks. See, look at this. Okay. But yeah, so we have the wrath of God is getting ready to come upon the earth. That God is going to unleash a lot of wrath. He's taking control. We talked about how John was asked to measure the temple area. And we talked about how if you're buying a piece of property, something like that, you get it surveyed. You get it, marked off exactly what you're buying so that you know. And so if you're getting ready to take possession of something, you get that. You get it measured off. And that's what we talked about that John was asked to do. He was asked to measure the area for God. Not that, it's a symbolic thing. Not that God doesn't already know how big it was and everything else. But just the simple fact of that God was getting ready to take possession of that and the temple area, and he wanted to show that he was getting ready to take possession of it. And so here we're seeing that the wrath of God is going to come upon the earth, and that there will be and that there will be a lot of wrath and stuff that comes, but there will also be God starting to reign. God is going to start reigning during that time, and he will actually have full reign once the final battle and everything commences. And as the elders are saying here, as they're bowing down and giving him honor and glory and praise, that they're saying that the judgment of the dead and living and all that is going to happen, and the judgment of the whole world is going to take place. And so these are the events that are going to happen. So, like I say, some people see this as future, some people see it as now it's happening. So, those that follow God and are trying to keep his commandments, they'll be taken care of. Even in death, they will be taken care of. So a lot of people are going to be martyred still, especially when the Antichrist really comes into his reign and really declares war on the people of God. And so, but even in death, and those people that will be martyred will be taken care of. That God will see them through. Okay, and so we know we don't have to worry about that. Okay, as David says in Psalm 23, lead me through the shadow of death, not stop there and hang out forever and ever. You're going through the valley of the shadow of death. Okay. The elders in heaven fall down and praise the Lord. This is what they've been waiting for. We saw this earlier, that the martyrs that have already gone before were crying out, when are you going to avenge the blood? When are you going to avenge us? This is it. This is what they've been waiting for. So they are celebrating and they are happy, and that this is what's finally taking place. Okay? This is an announcement of victory. This is an announcement of God taking control and his reign getting ready to start. Okay? And so this is, and the final battle is getting ready to take place. Okay? So, but we already know who the victor of the final battle is going to be. So, and even Satan knows who that victor is going to be. He just, Temple of God will be seen in heaven. Okay? And so, the sky will open up and John sees the temple of heaven, and others will be able to see it on the earth, and there's going to be no doubt at that point. Those that want to deny the existence of God, there'll be very little room for them to deny it at that point, but they still will. It's really, they'll try to explain it away in some way that it's, somebody pulling a trick, or, David Copperfield's got his best magic trick ever or something like that, So, but yeah, so. And then the last thing we see here is we see that Indiana Jones did not recover the Ark of the Covenant, because it is sitting in heaven and it will be seen in the temple of God. So in Raiders of the Lost Ark, he did not actually get the Ark of the Covenant away from the Nazis. So, you can just go ahead and forget about that. And then, there's also, but seriously, there's a lot of talk about where the Ark is, because nobody can find it. Nobody knows. They, believe it still exists, and we see that it will exist in these times. So where is it? Has it been taken up to heaven? Is it somewhere? A lot of people believe that it's in Ethiopia somewhere. And there's actually a group in Ethiopia that protects it, and wants to, it says that supposedly they know where it is, but they're bound by secrecy to not say, and that they protect it with their lives and everything, make sure that nobody gets it, and, it doesn't fall into the wrong hands and all that stuff and everything. We don't know. It's very possible that God has taken it and removed it from the earth, because he dwells within each one of us now. He doesn't need the Ark of the Covenant for his dwelling anymore. He dwells within, the Holy Spirit dwells within each one of the believers. And so his temple is on the earth.
Did you see anywhere in your studies that that's representative of Christ? The Ark of the Covenant, that when they show that's Christ?
No, I hadn't seen that.
No, I had heard that one time a long time ago.
Really? Okay.
That wasn't actually the Ark that you see in the Old Testament, that is Christ.
I didn't know. Like I said, I look at about 7 or 8 different places and get some different ideas as to what people are saying, and that's not one that I came across. So, but, Huh?
John.
John told him that. Uh-huh.
Is the wrath of God going to be like the plagues that he had sent before?
Gonna be much worse, but yeah, there's gonna be a lot of death and destruction on the earth and everything. And so yeah, I haven't looked too deeply into them, but yes, there will be bowls and what they call bowls and vials and things like that that'll take place for 7 more judgments. So we
I
have
just
to cover.
remember something like a Passover for,
Yeah.
if you were Christian and believed, it would go past you, and if it wasn't, you would be dead.
I believe so. You know, thinking that the plagues will not affect the people of God, the people that God is marked. But I don't know. I haven't studied far enough into this yet, so I don't know for sure. But I do believe that, like you say, that the people of the earth that are following God and that they may be martyred by the Antichrist. They may be killed by him. But as far as being destroyed in their bodies being destroyed in these judgments, I don't believe that's going to happen to them. So, and we're going to see here in chapter 12 that there is a group of people that are going to be protected, and there's again a lot with the whole book of Revelation. There's a lot of room for interpretation. That's the best word for it, I guess. And so we're gonna, we'll see here. There's as to exactly how much or what this all means and everything, but the judgments that will come will be, the wrath is going to be a lot worse than anything the earth has seen before. So it's about to get real. Okay. All right. Any other questions about this before we move on to chapter 12? All right, so chapter 12, the woman. 3 main characters in this book, in this chapter, okay? But before I begin, let me say, it is pretty much, and I'm sure if you look hard enough and deep enough, you'll find somebody that disputes this. But it is pretty much universally agreed upon that the chapter 12 is a symbolic chapter. That these events recorded here, that what's being told is happening symbolically, and that they represent other things. And so bear that in mind as we go through this chapter, okay? All right, so verses 1 through 6, let's begin with that. Then I witnessed in heaven an event of great significance. I saw a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon beneath her feet, and the crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant, and she cried out because of labor pains and the agony of giving birth. Then I witnessed in heaven another significant event. I saw a large red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns, with 7 crowns on his heads. His tail swept away 1/3 of the stars in the sky and threw them to the earth. He stood in front of the woman as she was about to give birth, ready to devour her baby as soon as it was born. She gave birth to a son who was to rule all nations with an iron rod, and her child was snatched up away from the dragon and was caught up to God and to his throne. And the woman fled to the wilderness where God had prepared a place to care for her for 1,260 days. Okay? All right, so the woman. Let's talk about the woman first. Okay? How many people think that it's Mary? Okay, this chapter is symbolic. We already talked about that. How many people believe that the woman here represents Mary?
I really don't know, but I think it is. I'm not sure.
Never even thought about it, okay? What, you're shaking your head no, Hank. What's on you? What you thinking? You don't know? Okay. All right. Actually, this does not represent Mary. Some people again, this is where you get into the thing, but you got to remember this is symbolic. Okay, the woman represents Israel. Okay, many times in the Old Testament, Israel is referred to as a woman. Okay, the nation at times is said to be prostituting itself out to other gods and to other things that turning away from God. Okay, and so in their disobedience or whatever. Okay, so it's very plausible that the woman here represents Israel because of the references in the Old Testament. Okay. The lineage of Jesus came through the people of Israel. And in the Old Testament, it speaks that that Israel will put forth the Messiah. Will bring forth the Messiah and its lineage. Okay, so Israel basically giving birth to the Messiah. And now, okay, make no mistake that the baby it's referring to is Jesus. Okay, it is Jesus. It's his birth and his ascension to heaven. It speaks nothing of his life on earth, his death, or his resurrection. But this is symbolically him being born and ascending into heaven. And we see here, we'll look a little further here into the whole dragon and everything. But what happened when Jesus was born? What did the king of the earth, what did the king try to do at that point in time?
Have him
Had
killed.
him killed.
Right, have him killed. How did he do that? What was his proclamation? Kill what? All kids? Or
Any male under the age of 3.
there you go. Any male under the age of 3. Based on the time when the wise men told him that the star appeared, that they were going by. Because they saw the star appear and they were going by that. And they went and talked to him. They say, help us find this child or whatever. And then when he wanted them to go find him and tell him, come back and tell him where it was and whatever and stuff. And then we all know this story, but they didn't go back. They went a different way. And then when Herod figured it out, he got angry and he said, okay, just kill all the male babies under this age. Because that's when the star appeared. And at that point, Joseph and Mary and Jesus all escaped to Egypt and fled to Egypt. Okay, so we see that symbolically in his birth that there was somebody trying to kill him. Okay, and so but that he was protected and he was saved. And again, it doesn't speak of his life here on earth and his death and his resurrection and all that. It talks his birth and his ascension. Okay. And so everything else in between is not represented in this, okay? But, okay, so getting back to the woman now, again, the nation of Israel will put forth the Messiah, so that's how people believe that this is more her. Now, and I'm not trying to get off on a tangent, but a crown with 12 stars represents the 12 tribes of Israel, okay? But I will say this, that there are statues of Mary in the Catholic Church that depict her in this way, that have her clothed with like sunbeams coming behind her and have moon between her feet and have the crown of stars and stuff, but that does not apply. That really does not apply to her because she was not over the 12 tribes. She didn't have 12 kids. What's the 12? She's not over the 12 tribes of Israel. Jesus is, but she's not. So, okay, so she was not a patriarch of, so, all right, so the 12 stars on, that's a lot of how Israel is determined to be what's being represented here. Okay, is everybody clear with that? Everybody get that? What else I got on here? Yeah, baby you talked about is Jesus. Getting ahead of myself here. Right, not mentioned. Dragon wants to kill the baby. Just as Herod, man, all the stuff we just talked about. And Herod didn't want to compete with anybody on his throne. That's why So a lot of the commentaries I read talk about how Herod was just a tool of the devil. He was being used by the devil to try to kill the baby Jesus. Okay, and so, all right. So, the dragon is Satan. Okay? The dragon is Satan. All right? Haven't seen him like this before. All right? Let's look at 7 through 12. Well, no, let's not yet. Anybody know how many? Actually, I got a couple questions for you. Okay? Anybody know how many angels fell with Satan when he fell?
Half.
A third.
One
Third.
third.
A third. Yes. No, not quite half, but a third. Okay. Verse 4, it says, his tail swipes away 1/3 of the stars and drops them to earth. Okay. Next question I have for you is, how many people believe that Satan, at this very moment, does not have access to heaven and to God? Because he's been cast out. Anybody believe that?
No, because I thought
I
he
don't.
still had access
Because God's
to
more
God,
powerful than the
but
devil.
God will not allow him certain privileges. Even though
Okay.
he has been cast out and his demons have been cast out.
Right. Well, he does. He has access. Okay. Where in the Bible do we see that? Anybody think of a place in the Bible where we see that Satan is talking to God in heaven?
In the book of Job.
That's right. Book of Job. Okay. Right now, and you can get into this big explanation of how there's layers of heaven kind of thing. You know, the sky is considered the first layer of heaven, and then beyond the sky, outer space is kind of the next layer of heaven. And then the actual throne room of God is the final layer of heaven. And some people say that he only has access to the middle layers. He doesn't have, but what I read in Job is that the angels come and present themselves to God, and he's with them. Okay? So he still has access to come and go. Like you say, he can't do nothing in heaven. He can't serve, he can't do anything. He's got no power in heaven. Okay? But he's only got power of what God gives him. We see that in Job too. When he wants to, and God agrees to let him test Job, he says, don't kill him. Don't touch him first. And then the second time he says, don't kill him. And so Satan still works within the boundaries that God gives him. All right? So we see this. But what's going to happen here is that at this battle, and the war is getting ready to break out. That's the next passage we're going to look at here. In this battle, when he loses this battle, then he will be cast out permanently from heaven, totally. So right now, he can still go before God, and he does, because he is called the accuser of the brethren. He goes and he does like what he did to Job. For each one of us, he goes and he says, look, they're not faithful to you, God. They would turn their back on you and whatever and all that stuff. He accuses us. He says, oh, look what they did. Look what Billy did yesterday. She went to a conference that didn't include any men. So I mean, but yeah, so.
No, they were there cooking and serving.
Oh, that's right.
They were the servants.
They were the servants, yes. But anyway, so verses 7 through 12. So, then there was a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon and his angels. And the dragon lost the battle, and his angels were forced out of heaven. this great dragon, the ancient serpent called the devil or Satan, the one deceiving the whole world, was thrown down to the earth with all his angels. Then I heard a loud voice shouting across the heavens, "It has come at last, salvation and power and kingdom, and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Christ. For the accuser of our brothers and sisters has been thrown down to earth, the one who accuses them before God day and night. They have been defeated by the blood of the Lamb and by their testimony. And they did not love their lives so much that they were afraid to die. Therefore rejoice, O heavens, and you who live in the heavens rejoice. But terror will come to the earth and the sea, for the dragon has come down to you in great anger, knowing that his time is literally short." All right. So war breaks out. Satan loses. Dragon loses. His angels lose. Okay. They move. 1/3 of the angels rebelled, defeated, and banished from heaven permanently now. Okay. So.
But they're not in the lake of fire, they're still just
No.
banished and.
That's right. They're not in the lake of fire yet. They're on the earth, and Satan's mad now because he's lost his complete access to heaven. Whatever level of heaven he's got access to, and that can be disputed.
He's
Whatever.
reaping havoc down here, though.
What now?
He's reaping havoc down here.
Yeah, he is, and that's what it says. It says, "Woe to the inhabitants of the earth," basically, because the dragon is the deceiver, the accuser. Satan is here, and he's got almost full power. You think he's gonna, God still limits him, but you think he's gonna, work within, be willing to work within the power God gives him so much? Not so much. There will come a point in time where God is going to take his hands off of Satan and let him have full power on this earth. And that's what's being described here.
I think it's already happening.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. If it was happening, we would all be underground in churches and everything else going on throughout the whole world. Okay, so he does not have ultimate rule yet. Okay, so as bad as things seem to be getting, he does not have power. So just remember that. Okay, if you get nothing else out of today, just remember that. All right, but he's no longer got access to heaven, and he's going to go after the woman. So he's going to go after Israel and the followers of God. Okay? Woman will be taken, as it said in, I think, verse 6, she will be taken and protected. We're going to see a little more in detail about that. She's going to be taken and protected, possibly at a place called Petra. Does anybody know what Petra is?
It's that place that they built way up in the rocks, and that nobody can get to them, but there's only one way up and one way down.
Right. One way in, one way out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it floods, and
Right.
they have to be real careful, but it is beautiful.
Yep, it is.
Look at it on YouTube.
Again, another Indiana Jones reference. But Indiana Jones in The Last Crusade, when he was looking for the Holy Grail, they ended up at Petra, and they come to this, and there's this like temple-looking thing, or building-looking thing carved into the rock, and there's the access in right there. And you're right, it does flood and other stuff like that or whatever. Okay, and so a lot of people believe it's going to be Petra, that she's the remnant of Israel. And this isn't a woman. This is the people of Israel and the believers of God. That there's always going to be a remnant that God protects, so that the believers are not wiped out completely from the earth. Okay, and this is that remnant of people. A lot of people believe that they're going to go to Petra, that they're going to be in Petra, but we don't really know for sure. Okay, again, as I say about every week, it's not a salvation issue. It's not nothing to get hung up on. Don't worry about it. I'll just tell you because that's kind of the more common belief about it. Okay, but when he can't get to the woman, he will go after the offspring of the people of Israel. And that means Jewish believers, that means regular believers, that means everybody who's on the earth that believes in God. He will go after those people. Okay? he's going to want to kill him. Okay? So, where'd the last slide go? Okay. I don't know. All right. Nero, who persecuted the church in the first century. Maybe this was the last one. I think it is. Nero, who persecuted the church, Stalin, and Hitler all did powerful things to try to wipe out the people of Israel. None of them were successful. All three of them combined, you take everything that those three did and combine it, it's going to look like Sunday school compared to what's going to happen when the Antichrist is on the earth. And those are all very horrible, horrible things that happened during those times.
Well, Hitler didn't. Everybody thinks that Hitler just went after the Jews, which is a lie. He killed over 6 million. They killed over 2 million Catholics and millions of other religious faiths, but none of that is ever brought out.
Yeah. So, exactly. So, but there is, but all the stuff that he did and Stalin and the others did and everything like that, then it's what he's it's going to pale in comparison to what's going on there. So, to what's going to happen during this time. Okay, yeah, that was the last slide because I've already talked about the next talking point. It's the 13 through 18. Let's go ahead and read it since I'm already ahead of myself. When the dragon realized he had been thrown down to earth, he pursued the woman who had given birth to the male child, but she was given 2 wings like those of a great eagle, so she could fly to the place prepared for her in the wilderness. There she would be cared for and protected from the dragon for a times and a half. Then the dragon tried to drown the woman with a flood of water that flowed from his mouth, but the earth helped her by opening its mouth and swallowing the river that gushed out of the earth, out of the mouth of the dragon. Okay? And the dragon was angry with the woman and declared war against the rest of her children, all who keep God's commandments and maintain their testimony for Jesus. Then the dragon took his stand on the shore beside the sea. And that sets up what's going to happen in chapter 13. Okay? So basically, we're going to see here that, that Satan's going to go after the people of the earth that believe in God. And we're going to see that the Antichrist reveals his true colors. The leader of the world becomes the Antichrist. And he goes forth. And he's going to try to destroy the Christians, the Jewish believers. Anybody that believes in God. Okay? And then, like you said, Petra floods. That's one of the things. That's one of the reasons why they believe, because it talks about flood of water coming from the mouth of Satan. He's going to try to kill her. Well, if you can't get to her, he's going to try to kill her by flooding. And, the earth is going to swallow it up. And so that's one of the reasons why it's believed that it's Petra that the remnant goes to. And then again, when Satan realizes that he can't get to the remnant that's protected by God, then he's going to go after everybody else. Okay? And he will try to wipe out everybody. There will be a great many people martyred during this time. And that there will be, but that those that stay faithful to God will be a target of Satan and will be, they could be martyred, but like I said at the beginning, even those that are martyred will be taken care of. Will be protected by
How in the
God.
world can anybody not believe in God?
I don't understand it
I
myself.
don't
but-
understand
I
it.
don't understand it. I just don't understand it.
It's how you're raised.
Well,
If you're raised to believe in God and don't lose your faith, you'll always have it. If you've not taken to church, you're not read the Bible, you're not taught anything, you're going to think it's a hoax. Like it's up to you, it's your environment, or how you're raised. I mean, we were raised one way. I grew up Catholic, so I know what he was talking about Mary. But in the Catholic religion, they still have Jesus on the cross. So they still got him hanging around where he hasn't
justice.
went into the earth and then